Have you ever noticed how some people seem to unravel without a single hand laid on them? Constantly stressed, easily triggered, exploding over trifles, they slowly lose everything: friends, health, respect, opportunities, without even realizing it. It's not the world that's beating them down, it's their inability to master their own minds. The bottom line is this: those who don't control their emotions will be controlled by everything around them. The price? A life filled with regrets, rash impulses, bad decisions, and fractured relationships. But those who stick with me to the end and apply what I'll share will discover something almost magical. Even amidst external chaos, inner peace reigns. Clarity. Strength. That's what Stoicism teaches, and that's what I want to share today. For those new here, I'm Adriano, and I've studied and practiced Stoic philosophy for over a decade. It's not just pretty Instagram quotes. It's a way of life, the bedrock that transformed my approach to life's challenges. And today, I want to show you how it can transform yours. How many times have you said, "I can't take it anymore"? That seemingly harmless phrase reveals an invisible prison most people inhabit, the illusion that the outside world is solely responsible for their unhappiness. But the truth is harsher and more liberating. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that defines you. Stuck in traffic, someone cuts you off, and within seconds, you're a volcano. Your breath quickens, anger erupts, and all the good things about your day vanish. Or you get a bad review at work, even if it's unfounded, and you spend hours stewing, mentally defending yourself, replaying the conversation. Stop and think. How much have you suffered over things already done? How many sleepless nights have you spent reliving an unchangeable situation? And what did you gain from it? Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb men, but their judgments about these things." That simple sentence holds one of the greatest powers of the human soul, the ability to choose your response. You might lose a job, that's a fact, but your reaction determines your destiny. Despair, failure, fear, or the chance to change careers, start a business, learn something new, or take a break before making a conscious decision. The difference lies in internal control. That control separates those who rise from those who fall. Think Will Smith at the Oscars, a rash reaction to a joke, instantly tarnishing decades of success. What if he'd taken a breath and chosen a wiser response? Externally, little might have changed. Internally, everything. Then consider Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, not for crimes but for fighting racism. He emerged serene, resolute, without a thirst for revenge, becoming a symbol of peace and transformation. How? Internal control. Stoicism teaches that between stimulus and response there's a space. In that space lies our freedom, a space most people never acknowledge, reacting instinctively, programmed to defend, attack, despair. Honestly, how many poor decisions have you made due to emotional impulse? Sent a regrettable text? Said something hurtful? Made financial, professional, or relationship decisions fueled by anger, fear, or insecurity? And worse, how much time did you spend trying to fix the damage? Internal control is crucial. It's not about becoming an emotionless robot. It's about breathing before reacting, observing your inner world before acting. Harvard Medical School research shows that people with better emotional self-control are less likely to develop heart disease, anxiety, and depression. Controlling emotions reduces cortisol, the chronic stress hormone that silently destroys the body and mind. But no one teaches this in school. We learn math, geography, but not how to handle a breakup, betrayal, or the feeling that the world is ending. Then comes the crash: burnout, anxiety attacks, and loss of control. But Stoics understand, what happens externally isn't always our choice, but what happens internally always is. That's the key. You won't control others' behavior. You can't prevent criticism, traffic jams, yelling bosses, or illness. But you can choose between despair or serenity, anger or focus. Every day offers countless opportunities to exercise this power. When the alarm rings and you want to stay in bed, when someone provokes you, when everything seems to go wrong, and your mind conjures catastrophic scenarios. That's when you pause, breathe, and remember. I'm responsible for my reactions, and that will determine what happens to me next. The world may be volatile, but you don't have to be. True power isn't about controlling everything around you, but remaining unshakable when everything tries to bring you down. That's Stoicism. That's inner strength, and it's available to you now. The choice is yours. Have you realized that most human suffering stems not from what is, but from what we expect it to be? You do everything for someone, expect gratitude, and get silence. You dedicate yourself at work, expect recognition, and get more demands. You invest in a relationship expecting reciprocity and receive distance. Then comes pain, frustration, anger. Stoicism teaches something most ignore. Pain doesn't come from reality, but from unmet expectations. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive with gratitude whatever the life may bring. Do not wish that things were different from what they are. It's a blow to the ego and a liberation. When you stop demanding life behave as you wish, you begin to deal with what it is, not what you imagined." Think how many times you felt bad about something existing only in your mind. You created a scenario, reality followed another path. You go on a date expecting sparks, but they're not there. You prepare for an interview expecting a job offer, but the email never arrives. You expect someone to change and they don't. You suffer, not because these things are inherently bad, but because your expectations were different. This is common. You've experienced this, haven't you? Been frustrated by someone not meeting your idealization? Devastated by something that objectively wasn't that bad, but your inflated expectations magnified it into a personal catastrophe? It's common because humans project. The mind creates scenarios, expectations, assumptions, and believes them as guarantees. But the real world doesn't work like that. People don't work like that. Life is unpredictable. The higher your expectations, the more vulnerable you become. The equation is simple. High expectation plus indifferent reality, inevitable suffering. Amy Winehouse is a tragic example. She expected love to bring healing, security, balance. That expectation led her to toxic relationships, emotional dependence, addiction, and ultimately destruction. It wasn't just a difficult life, it was the weight of her expectations. Keanu Reeves is almost the opposite. He lost an expected baby and then his girlfriend in an accident. But he didn't fight the uncontrollable. He accepted it, moved on, and is now seen as a symbol of peace, simplicity, and presence. That's the difference between being trapped in idealizations and being free to live what is. It's not about resignation, but aligning expectations with reality. Expecting perfection from others leads to suffering. Expecting everything to go as planned leads to frustration. But when you understand that life owes you nothing, everything that comes becomes a gift. This changes your relationship with the world. You love people for who they are, not who you want them to be. You appreciate small victories without demanding constant greatness. You handle unexpected events with more ease and patience. Research from the University of California shows that people with unrealistic expectations are more prone to anxiety and depression, while those with a realistic view, accepting the uncontrollable, tend to have greater well-being and satisfaction. This is no coincidence. When you expect too much, you're constantly teetering on the edge, a strong wind, and you fall. But when you're grounded, accepting what comes, adapting, adjusting your course, you live lighter, more fully, more present. Stoicism teaches us not to wage war with reality, to embrace what comes, even if it's not what you wanted, to transform "it should have been this way" into "it is this way, so what do I do now?" Because ultimately, expectation is just an idea. Reality is what you work with. When you abandon the illusion of how it should be, you find the peace of living what is. How many times have you been in an argument where, deep down, you knew you wouldn't change anything, yet you insisted, wanting to prove you were right? Maybe with your partner, boss, family, And even after winning, you emerged emotionally exhausted? Here's one of Stoicism's most powerful lessons. Your peace is worth more than your need to be right. The need to always be right is an ego trap. You feel that if you don't prove your point, you're losing something. But what you really lose is your equilibrium. Seneca said, "It is more noble to yield than to conquer in a useless argument." This doesn't mean remaining silent in the face of injustice, but having the wisdom to choose when to fight and when to let go. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every differing opinion needs correcting. This wisdom isn't common. We were raised in a culture where being right signals strength, where winning an argument is valued more than maintaining a healthy relationship. Think of how many small arguments escalated because someone couldn't stop. How many relationships were destroyed by the impulse of "I won't let this go"? How much peace was stolen by a simple exchange of barbs? Have you experienced this? Lost a friendship over a misunderstanding that could have been avoided with a simple, "Okay, let's move on"? Social media amplifies this behavior. Everyone wants an opinion on everything, and if you disagree, you become an enemy. But this constant need to respond, counter, correct, is a silent drain, a mental and emotional exhaustion that saps your peace. Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence, cites an experiment showing that when publicly contradicted, the amygdala, the brain region linked to the fight-or-flight response, activates as if in a physical threat. When challenged in an argument, your brain reacts as if under attack. It isn't. It's just an opinion, a perspective. If you don't learn to recognize this, you become reactive, explosive, unstable. But when you develop the ability to pause and ask, "Is this battle really worth it?" you gain power. The power to conserve your energy, maintain focus, protect your peace. Consider Kanye West, a top artist, yet constantly embroiled in public fights, impulsive debates, unnecessary arguments. The result? Lost millions, credibility, a tarnished reputation, all for not knowing when to be silent. Now think of Morgan Freeman, the target of countless unfounded speculations and criticisms. Rarely did we see him respond aggressively. He chose to preserve his image, his mind, his legacy. That's stoic wisdom in action, and that same wisdom can transform your life. The next time someone confronts you, before responding, ask, "What's the emotional cost of this fight? What do I really gain? And what might I lose?" Sometimes it's time. Other times, energy, reputation, or a valuable relationship. What's always lost in an unnecessary conflict is inner peace. Often, the other person isn't interested in a real conversation. They want to win, provoke, unbalance you. When you react impulsively, they win. The truly strong aren't those who shout loudest, but those who know when to be silent, understanding that peace is better than being right in a pointless argument. It's not about passivity, but selectivity. Understanding that every argument is an energy investment, and you must choose wisely where to invest it. No one owes you agreement, and you don't owe your peace to any ego battle. Silence sometimes is the loudest sign of maturity. Choosing not to react is one of the strongest reactions. The more you learn this, the lighter your life becomes. Less stress, fewer arguments, fewer regrets, more peace, more clarity, more real power. Stoicism doesn't teach weakness. It teaches unshakability, and often that begins with a silent choice. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to keep my peace. Have you ever considered how often you've been your own worst enemy? Not because you wanted to be, but because you couldn't say no when you needed to, couldn't resist an impulse, acted without thinking, then had to deal with the consequences. This behavior is more common than it seems, and it carries a high price. Those who don't control themselves end up controlled by external stimuli. Seneca was blunt. To be enslaved by one's own desires is the worst form of slavery. This slavery shows up daily, in small decisions. You wake up, the alarm rings, you know you need to get up, but you hit snooze. Just 5 more minutes. Before you know it, you've lost time, are late, and your day begins in chaos. Or you decide to eat healthy, pass a bakery, Smell the bread, impulse, choice, setback. It happens on your phone too. You sit down to study, work, create, but a notification sounds. You'll just take a quick peek. 10 minutes become half an hour becomes 2. Before you know it, priorities are pushed aside. These behaviors seem small, but they shape your life. Losing control in small things makes it hard to control the big ones. Most live like this, held hostage by their impulses, doing what they want, not what they need, confusing freedom with a lack of discipline. True freedom is saying no, even when no one's watching. Mike Tyson is an extreme example. He had strength, talent, fame, money, but no self-control. Scandals, prison, lost millions, a ruined reputation. He was defeated not by opponents in the ring, but by internal battles he never learned to fight. Now look at Tom Brady. Decades at the top of America's most competitive sport. Controlled diet, strict routine, unwavering focus. Even with everything, he maintained self-control. That internal mastery is what made him last longer than most. Be consistent, be respected. What differentiates these stories is the same principle: self-mastery. Science confirms this. Stanford University's marshmallow experiment showed that children who resisted eating a treat immediately, waiting for a larger reward, years later, had better academic performance, healthier habits, and more stable relationships. Self-control was the determining factor. This applies to everything: relationships, finances, work, mental health. People who control themselves reap greater rewards not because they're smarter, but because they know how to wait and choose what's right over what's easy. Now honestly ask yourself, how many times have you sabotaged yourself in recent months? Said, "I'll deal with it later"? Made promises to yourself and broken them? How many plans remained on paper because you chose immediate gratification? It's not about blame, but about awakening, realizing that your life doesn't change when the world changes. It changes when you change your choices. And those choices begin within. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This is one of Stoicism's most important phrases, not about political, economic, or social freedom, but about the hardest freedom: mastering your impulses, conquering your ego, keeping your word to yourself. Imagine your life if you truly did what you know you need to do, had the strength to stop when you're overdoing it, the discipline to start even without wanting to, the power to choose what's best, not what's most comfortable. The difference between a mediocre and an extraordinary life lies in that invisible strength. It's not given, it's built. In routine, in silence, in commitment to yourself. Mastering yourself isn't about changing the world. It's about breaking free from its grip. It's about silencing the siren song of impulse, the clamor of distraction, the tyranny of desire. Suddenly, you're not just reacting, you're in charge. This isn't some flimsy self-esteem boost. It's unshakable inner strength, the kind of independence money can't buy, and that changes everything. Life throws curveballs, but with inner control, you're unfazed. It's not what happens to you, but how you navigate it that defines your journey. That choice, it starts now. No waiting, no relying on anyone but yourself. It's a quiet revolution, a shift from the inside out that ripples outwards. Even small steps toward self-mastery yield incredible results. Less reactivity, fewer frustrating setbacks, calmer waters. Clarity emerges, and you're firmly at the helm of your own life. If this resonated, click play on the next video. It's the next rung on the ladder to self-mastery, a stepping stone on your personal growth journey, a chance to be a slightly better version of you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.